Well, hello, everyone. This is Dr. J. I'm the host of the Sexuality Space. Welcome to our live event, the first of 2023. My silent co host, Misha Elliott, is behind the scenes organizing our business for today. For those of you listening to the replay, the Sexuality Space is live every Wednesday, noon Eastern, on Twitter. Here, I've created a sex positive community where we talk about different sex topics, meet CEOs of sex companies, sex educators, researchers, and writers. And I want you to see me doing my work in the daylight as I integrate sexuality into everyday life. Welcome, everyone. As a reminder, this is a recorded space which will live on the Twitter timeline and is repurposed on my website, FlowGen playlist, and on YouTube. Please note that the space in the lower right corner is equipped with its own chat feature, and you can ask questions there as the space goes on, or DM Misha or me for questions. So, hopefully, people will be gathering into the space here. And I want to tell you that the last time that we all came together was the last show of 2022, which was Holiday Gifts, all about how to pick up something sexy. And this week, we'll start back talking about new mindset, new results, working for your sexy plans in 2023. Misha, are you in a place where you can say hello? I guess that's a no. So let me go ahead and get started with some of the information that I wanted to share with you today. I think when a new year starts for me, I'm always looking at the idea that it's a blank slate and I can begin again anew with different ideas and different ways to work that. And this year, I think um, as I prepared for January, I did work in November and December of last year to kind of get ideas in different directions that I wanted to go for my work. So I have a new community that's called Passion Works, and it's on the Circle platform. And I'll be talking to women about the Purple Sex Reflection Deck there. And in a month or two, I'll be hosting some specific education classes for how to write scenes with sex in that location too. And it seems to me that, new projects take on a new energy and new fun things. And Misha and I both are doing some work with tarot cards and creating some rituals that have meaning for us in our lives and what we're doing. And I think for a lot of folks, it's hard to think about that when it comes to sexuality. And so, one of the things that I wanted to help you think about for this year is to stay focused on your individual self in sexuality before you solely focus on a partner or on a relationship. And if you take this specific approach, it can involve taking time to understand and explore your own desires, boundaries, and values when it comes to sex and intimacy. And there are a lot of different ways that you might be able to focus on yourself as an individual. The first one would be self exploration and self discovery. This can include many number of things, but it might be reading or learning about different aspects of sexuality. You may even decide to talk to a trusted friend or professional about your thoughts and feelings, and you may try new things, and you're always working that process with caution and consent to see what feels good for you. And I think it's also helpful for us to make sexuality and our own pleasure and well being be a priority. And maybe this means setting boundaries around what types of sex you want to be involved in, how you want to think about that for yourself, and to make sure that you're engaging in sexual experiences that are positive and enjoyable for you. And one of the ways of self exploration is for you to be able to take that time with yourself in as many sensual directions as you can think of to have that time to explore for yourself. I think it's important to remember that everyone's experience with sexuality is unique. And what works for one person may not work for another. So it's okay to take your time and go at your own pace when it comes to exploring your sexuality and to find out what feels right and good for you. So hopefully for 2023, that will be something that you will be taking a look at and showing yourself, um, what it is that you want. So one of the things that a lot of people like to do are to find specific tools that are helpful for them in that process. And coming to a place like this to get specific information is one way that you can begin that process. As I said, I forget even how many spaces that we've done at this point in time, but there are a lot of different things that we can talk about to help you get new information about sexuality. One of the things that 2023 might provide for you as a resource would be the Sex Positive community on the Moan app. And the Moan app is a live voice chat audio, and it promotes conversation and exploration as well as education with expert-led panels and user-generated rooms. And it is specifically a sexuality and gender inclusive community. And I've been behind the scenes there as a consultant since the app began, and I'll be starting spaces there this week, actually tomorrow at 4 p.m. I'll be hosting a new program called Purple Sex and Erotic Whims. And I'm going to have a different focus each week. The first week one will be erotic reading. So they'll be themed. And week 2 will be erotic writing. Week 3 will be Purple Sex reflection deck discussions. And then week 4 will be a sexual wellness topic. So this would be one tool or one education resource that you could put into your learning processes that might give you some different information. The other thing is that you might want to check out the OMG Yes. And this particular resource is derived from a large-scale national representative scientific research about the specifics of touch and sexual pleasure. And the techniques on the site come directly from this research for using 20,000 women. So, and it's a tool that can be used individually for women or men or couples. So if you care about women's pleasure, then this is information that could be very helpful to you. Another thing that you might want to consider is to follow Sex and Psychology podcast and blog with Dr. Justin Lehmiller. And he created Sex and Psychology to share the science of sex and relationships in a way that's informative, engaging, and accessible. And unlike sexual advice websites, this is not a personal opinion-based blog. Rather, it's articles on the site that are rooted in science with citations and links to original source material. So this way you'll have an understanding of where science is positioned to give you accurate information about sexuality. So all of this falls into the education realm of what you might want to do in sexuality. Another tool that you might be interested in is journaling. And I think both Misha and I have been doing a lot. Well, we're writers. We're journaling all sorts of things in all sorts of different directions. But it's important to stay in touch with our thoughts and feelings related to sexuality because it's helpful to explore and process our own experiences. And this can be useful if you feel uncomfortable discussing these topics with others. So if you spend some time with yourself and get an idea of what your notion and focus is, then I think that would help have clarity for you about what it is that you want to bring forward and how you want sexuality to be a positive and clear directed point into the future. So sometimes as a third tool, people might want to look specifically at communication. And when I say that, I mean, maybe you want to create a new space this year to talk openly and honestly with some of your trusted friends or a therapist about your sexuality to help you explore your thoughts and feelings. And this can also provide a supportive space so that you can ask questions and that you can get feedback. And I'm sure in that direction, if you're using some of the education items that I addressed to start with, then those will be prompts or ideas that you can jump off from to have different conversations with people that are important to you. I think the fourth item to take a look at is the individual nature of solo experimentation. And it's important that we understand how our body works for ourselves. We want to know what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And this is a helpful way to learn about our own personal desires and preferences. And of course, this can involve things like masturbation or trying out different types of touch or sensation. So we know that our sensory nerve endings and our skin is such a big part of our aspect of sexuality that we are engaged in, that we need to find the things that are important to us and feel really good in that particular direction. So taking the time aside, setting that time aside to find out how you respond to touch and how that can be activated for you in your pleasure and desire arena. And if you do want to have conversation with a partner, if you're in a relationship, you're going to start thinking about the idea while you're by yourself, getting clear about what your interest is, that how can you then move into talking openly and honestly with a partner about your desires and being clear about boundaries and being clear about consent. All of these things could go a long way toward setting you up a new direction for 2023 and enjoying a new aspect of sexuality. One of the things that I think is important is, for people to feel safe creating their own spaces where they can have conversations or the space that they create for themselves. But it's also pacing that's important. You need to figure out how much information at what point in time that you can spend moving forward with yourself, because sometimes we get too much too fast and we need to create a pace that's going to be important for us. I think one of the things, too, that's interesting when we think about new mindset and new results is that we need to think that a new mindset about sexuality can end with some very specific new results. Maybe you're going to have improved sexual satisfaction. So by changing the way that you think about sex and intimacy, you might be able to enjoy and feel satisfied with your sexual experience. And so whether it's the education or the journaling or solo experimentation, you're adopting a more positive and accepting attitude towards your own desires and boundaries, or you're focusing on content and communication with a partner. So those are all things that would be good, improve sexual satisfaction. It's also possible that with a new mindset, you might have increased self-esteem. And so a new mindset that's more accepting and positive toward your own sexuality can directly lead to feeling better about yourself. And this may also help you feel more confident in your own skin and more confident with your own desires and your own boundaries. So self-esteem is always a good place to think about moving forward in the world. So in relation to communication, if you change the way you think about sexuality, you might even be able to improve communication with your partner and sex because you're more comfortable talking, and maybe you'll be able to listen and understand perspectives from a partner in a way that you've not done that before. Misha.
What tips do you give on creating a new mindset, figuring out what you want your new mindset to be, and then implementing the steps to get there?
Well, I think that was the point of creating some specific tools, because I think we need to have education places that we can go to. And then when we see things that are of interest to us and we delve into that particular area, then that allows us a new way to gather information and decide what's important for us. Um, and even when we're doing journaling, if there's an idea that comes forward, we need to help men and women alike to determine the thing that is important to them, to pay attention to the thing that is important to them, as if it starts a beginning lifeline into their own sexuality. And it's just a matter of starting with something. So if we have the tool of education and some of the items that I just mentioned, go into the Moan app and listen to different topics and think, wow, what does that mean to me? What do I think about that for me? Or if you're looking at the Oh My God, Yes website, what information am I drawn to? What information sparks there? So I think it goes back to that individual purpose of finding tools and then looking into the tools and seeing what resonates with you and then moving forward in that direction. Did that answer your question?
Yes. And can you give us an example of a new mindset that you're working on and what steps you're taking to get there?
Yes, I can. This year has been for me personally about structure with time. And I'm working specifically balancing physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I literally mean that in terms of balance, that I'm looking for equal information for me in that direction. So, one of the tools that I'm going to be using this year is to take a look at how I envision my sexuality creatively so I can tap into a subconscious part of myself. So I'm drawing mandalas, which I can then look at from a color direction, um, make a statement about my own sexuality and what that means to me. And then after I have the mental part, how do I feel about those particular things? If I draw something creative, what does that tell me about my feelings around sexuality? And then how does that tie directly to my thinking? Do I want to change something? Do I want to add an idea about how I approach something? And then taking that, putting it into physical practice. When I learn things about myself, do I want to now add in more time for exploration to create a balance point that feels better for the amount of time that I want to have the exploration, or with partner time? All of this, I think, is looking at my whole world in a factor of time and then figuring out the intimacy that I want to have with myself, the intimacy that I want to have with a partner, and how my thinking, my body, my emotions, and then the connection to, a higher plane or my own personal intuition comes into play. So I'm really using a calendar and I'm using time and I'm structuring to say, did I do these things today that are helpful for me? So, for instance, before I started the space here, I had done 15 minutes of exercise specific in the chakra 2 area, just to feel the energy and the creativity so that I would be aligned when I came in here to have the conversation today. How was that for an example?
Excellent. I'm not finding any mandalas in your timeline. Is there a reason you haven't shared your artwork with us?
Yes, right this minute, the artwork is being exclusively shared with the Purple Sex Reflection Deck members and course in that location. And since for me, those are really true subconscious snapshots, and I wanted to be a part of the community that I am creating, I want to be able to share that information with the folks that are in that particular group so that we can all learn and grow together in the process of using the mandalas that way. Did that answer your question?
Yes, you always answer my questions.
Excellent. I see Mistress K popped in today. We'll see if she, um,
She did.
yes, she did. See if she wants to come up and join.
I already invited her.
I love it. I love it.
It's
Um,
automatic for her. She's like one of my instants. Ooh, she's here. Let me try to invite her and hope she'll come up.
tell me what I'm looking to see what all you've put into the space. Okay, you were putting some of the specific things that I addressed where people could find. Oh, excellent, excellent. You did the Moan app, and oh my God, yes. Oh, that's perfect, perfect, perfect.
Do you have any specific Rosie items you would like me to share? I saw a couple of those in your feed.
Um, whoops, I don't know. Let me look at the feed and see if there's one in particular that might stand out. I know they have, there's something new that they were just doing. I was trying to remember what it was. Let me look here. Oh, they're doing a free 1 month membership. So
That's what I was thinking, the free silver.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, I can share that
Yeah, share that into the space too. That'll be good.
then.
That'll be good. This may be the first time that we've had the fewest amount of folks come into the space. Mistress K, I just did I guess a mini lecturette for,
I I know you've been busy speaking. I did check the happening now section and we're not listed. I don't know if that's because I'm in here or I'm not sure. So
interesting.
I did, yeah, I found that really interesting.
Well,
And I did tweet about it.
yeah, all different things are going on with Twitter. So who knows, where that's going in the scheme of things.
Right.
And, it's not like I have to be here the entire time because we are looking at, what 2023 has to do with. And as I said, time is being one of the aspects that I'm looking at. So,
Hmm.
if people want to be here, yay. And then I'll be concise like I've done to list out the things and talk specifically about the new mindset and new results using some specific tools and directions that you could go. And I see Mistress K's come up on stage.
Woohoo.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Um, so I obviously came in late. What we talking about? Recap, please,
Well, I
quick
was
recap.
quick recap. I was talking about um, if we create a new mindset that includes some education. So I named some specific places to go think about things, to do some journaling, to have solo experimentation, to consider how you want um, your communication to be with a partner. That if you adopt a new mindset, you can improve your sexual satisfaction, improve relationships, increase self esteem, and improve communication too.
Excellent. Um, so one of the things that you said about was kind of taking the time to create a mindset, and that I was listening to Priestess Anya and Salacious Scarlett's podcast, The Flaming Yoni, and I was catching up on that. And
Uh huh.
they had a wonderful podcast about kind of wrapping up 2022 and setting their intentions for 2023. And something Anya said that really resonated with me was how oftentimes her sense of the new year and that new year energy doesn't fall on the Roman Gregorian calendar for her. She doesn't feel that energy until it gets kind of closer to February.
Ah,
And
yeah.
and I was thinking that, for me that is very similar where I don't have the bandwidth to really sit down and think about what are my intentions for myself and for the year, it's on the back burner and it stays on the back burner. But to sit and kind of be mindful about it for a while, I just I don't have the time because I'm from September until January is holidays or birthdays or family obligations or whatever. So I'm running and gunning and I don't have a time to really kind of stop and do that until after January. So I
Well,
feel very deeply like what she said. But the nice thing is that this can all kind of be sitting on the back burner so that when you do take the time for it, you almost have a better idea. So I think we can kind of feel that pressure when people are like, "What are your intentions for 2023?" You're like, "I don't fucking know. I'm just I'm just
yeah,
trying to
I'm with
I'm
you.
still trying to recover from all of the stress and crap and all that. Like I can't think about next year. I'm still trying to I'm still shell shocked from the year we just ended, and I feel like
Yeah.
January is that time for us to kind of sit and recover in a way. And then February is when we get that kind of excitement for the new year. I honestly feel like that's why if you try to rush into your resolutions, your gym resolutions, your health resolutions, or whatever, if you try to rush into it in January, it's very hard to sustain it because you have not taken the time to recover from the experiences and to internalize all of those experiences that you just had. And I think that's also
Well,
why January can be somewhat of a depressive month if you try to rush through things without taking the time to integrate those, that then you can have this self-imposed feeling of failure.
Well, let me tell you what resonated for me with what you said. I think that a lot of people don't know what their personal rhythm is, and you were addressing wonderfully what yours is. And I think for me, I'm someone who works in seasons. And so November and December of last year, where is for me personally, where ideas and new things are happening. It's that true harvest kind of direction. And then winter is putting things together and moving it forward. I'm not somebody that does resolutions, so that's a whole different world. But it's like a new chapter of a book starts for me, and I begin that process, whatever it's going to be on day one of the new year. But it's probably not as um, crazy in the making the information as a lot of people put that together. It's just how shall I do it and which way shall I do it? And it's an evolution in the process of doing that.
Which
Also,
it makes me wonder if you have held over that sense from your years and time in academia, because the fall and stuff is when you're implementing,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're you're getting that energy from the other students, you're getting that. So that's I to me that sounds very kind of academic calendar.
And it's funny because, that has academic calendar hasn't been as large in my life as other calendars have been in my life, but the place that it has brought wonderful things is about clearing out energy, is about getting rid of stuff that doesn't need to be here and taking the spaces in between. So like if a semester was ending, the second week in December and it didn't start back to the second week in January, I have all this time, family time and other stuff, and get rid of things, and that part's really cool. I see Mish has her hand up too. Go right ahead, ma'am.
I was going to mention that I don't do resolutions either. I feel like that's just setting yourself up to fail. Especially because, oh, it's January 1st. I need to do dryuary. I can't be drinking. I need to cut out the sweets. I need to have meatless Monday. I need to have this all at once. And it's like, no.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that, for me, and you and I talked about it where I sent you the new calendar thing. I just see it as a
Hmm.
repository to hold information for us. And so the cards that we've been drawing per day have been
Yes,
affirmative
helpful.
for things that are happened in October, November, December, and moving it forward, going, I think you're on the right path. This is what you're
And
supposed to be doing in the sexuality world.
right, and when I stopped doing resolutions, I tried doing a word for the year, which I previously posted about in the past on my blog. I would share the word or two that I had picked for the year. And I've decided to stop trying that as well.
Well,
So the thing I've decided to embrace is the writer thing. I'm going to live a try fail cycle. I'm going to try, and if it succeeds, I'll continue doing it. And if I fail, I will figure out what I can change in order to hopefully make it succeed. So, so I'm going to live in a try fail cycle.
I believe they call that a growth mindset, having a growth mindset.
But I'm a writer and I like calling it the try fail cycle.
Call it whatever you want, darling.
you know, that's the fun part. Not only is it the rituals that we're creating to hold the energy for us related to sexuality or whatever direction we're going, but it's how we frame it in our mind using the words that we do. So that makes it really fun to think about how this is going on. And I see that my friend Gora has shown up today. What an exciting thing. Hi, Gora.
Hello, it's so nice to see you. This is my dinner time, so I'm making dinner for a bunch of people right now.
Well, what good food are we having from your beautiful garden, which I know, in January is probably interesting, but what are we having?
Well, my spaghetti sauce from the garden, to go with some very basic spaghetti.
I love it. I love it. And listen, I need to connect with you because I need to tell you that I will be flying to Budapest on April 1st.
That's so random. It's in Budapest.
I'm I'm going to go down the Danube River. And so there might be a place that we can attempt to have a connection point.
Oh gosh, if you can make it to Frankfurt, I might be able to swing it. But
Okay,
outside
well,
of my
I'll
country,
have to,
or even going to Frankfurt is kind of a big deal because I don't ever go anywhere. But
yeah. I'll be going from Budapest to Amsterdam and be there for the Tulip Festival. So
oh, that
it's going
sounds
to be an interesting trip.
awesome.
So I'm
You've got
hoping
just under 3 months to plan, Gora.
I'll get with you. I'll get with you and let you know what the time frame for everything is and see if Frankfurt's one of our stops. I really don't know. I'm not the one who set up the program, so we'll see. And that's part of this year's component too, in terms of sexuality out and about in travel and where can we have fun with that. And so I'm really excited to see when I stop at all of these different countries, what I can find out because I'm going to be looking at writing and attire and behavior and all of these fun things, which provide, an interesting mindset in and of itself. People doing things differently than what I experience every single day. So that part's fun and exciting. And Gora, I'm just delighted that you popped in here today while you're making dinner. That's great. Thank you. We were talking new mindsets and sexuality. And Mistress K, I'm curious, you and I are going to be having a conversation on the Moan app the third Thursday in January, where you're going to be my person and we're going to be going through the purple sex deck and talking about all of that. How do you see something like social audio as a helpful item to new mindset for sex? Well,
Social audio like
like,
Spaces and the Moan app and things like
yes,
that.
yes, uh-huh.
Well, I think it's very important. Um, there are a lot of people who have ended up messaging me as a result of different rooms that I've done on the Moan app, who have talked about having their, thinking things were a certain way, having a preconceived notion of what a person must be like based on their sexuality. My shirt says hot wife. I'm sure people have very, you know, preconceived notions about what that means. And then they get and they hear me speak, and it changes that. And I think that that has also been true for people in polyamorous, asexual people, trans people who have hosted rooms on the Moan app. There's so many those safe spaces where we can ask things we are curious about that we might feel uncomfortable asking the people in our lives because that's not the relationship that we have with them. But they're curious about it and they want to know more. And anything that can kind of challenge your preconceived notions and open your mind in a positive way is what is I or at least just get you to think. I
Well,
think that's a good thing.
yeah, and it's what you said earlier about the idea of having space to create your mindset. I think
Mhm.
anytime we have a conversation like this, or we are having that on the Moan app, and somebody's hearing something for the first time, or they're addressing it in a way that's like, this is new and different. I'm unaware of this as a topic or content or anything like that. It allows some space for our thinking to be challenged. And in that challenge, you get to go into yourself. You can do self-reflection. What does this mean? How do I think about that? How do I feel when I hear that? And it's that wonderful what you and I are doing, the authentic and the genuine. This is us. This is who we are. This is what we
Mhm.
sound like. This is, if you were sitting next to me right here in my office, you would be seeing exactly what you get right here. And so I think that's one of the things that's really neat about doing social audio related to sexuality.
She's
Yeah.
not lying. What you see is what you get. Total WYSIWYG with Dr. J.
Well, since I don't have a whole lot of pictures out there, most people think I'm wandering around my house in a Hot Wife t-shirt or various lingeries, and that is so not the case. Half the
Uh,
time, it's me in jeans or hiking pants or something, very, very casual, if not still in my PJs. Like it's not glamorous. I'm glad I
yeah,
save glamour for play dates.
I love it. And you know what? I see that Misha just put your toy box tees up in the nest overhead so people can know that you're on the Moan app doing your things. And I have to tell you, it was absolutely spectacular to meet the CEO founder of the Moan app in real life.
Yes, very exciting, and they're doing a great job with us hosting the majority of the talks and discussions that we're going to be having on the Moan app. The Moan app is actually going to be the place that I think 90% of the conversations this year are going to take place on the Moan app because Twitter Spaces has become challenging, we'll say, and other platforms people are not necessarily comfortable with because you have to show your face or something like that. So with the Moan app, because there's between the chat feature and then just the fact that there's no face, it's an audio only, I think it allows the space for people to feel comfortable enough learning about a topic that can still be incredibly taboo, filled with um, tangential taboos, things like erotic humiliation and race play and chastity and female dominance, male submission. All of these things can be triggering and have to be, and or can have those preconceived notions attached to them. And so I'm kind of glad that we're able to have an open space, safe space, sex positive space where we can challenge some of those preconceived notions, but also pick apart, you know, what turns us on about it, for the people who are in it, and kind of make it, if not relatable, at least understandable, where you can just say, your kink is your kink and that's okay. It's not my kink, or your kink is not my kink, but your kink is okay. That
And
phrase that goes
yeah.
on, that we can learn how to not yuck on somebody's yum
And that's
from that.
part of that wonderful boundary setting too, in terms of, what works for you, what works for somebody else. They may not be the same thing, but we can have the appreciation for what it is. And I think too, you're hitting on an interesting point that, you might be into an area of sexuality that someone knows nothing about. They've never heard of it before, and they're hearing it for the first time. And so when they ask you questions, it allows you to clarify things within yourself, with your mindset. And maybe they're going to ask you a question that you have not been asked before. And I think mindset and that creation of what the whole thinking process is absolutely fascinating. It goes in both directions. The person's hearing you discuss what you're discussing. They think what they think and they go, oh, can I ask a question? And then that back and forth direction allows for this communication, allows for reflection. They may take their journal, they may write some things down, say, wow, I've never thought about that. Maybe that's the education part. I need to go find a book to read about that, or I need to set up a time where I'm regularly learning about this particular topic. All of those things come together for that mindset. And I think you're right that the Moan app is going to play a much more direct part into the future of 2023 for setting those particular spaces where people can get new information.
I hope so. I hope that it grows, but I hope that it's also continues to stay the welcoming community that they have really worked hard to build. It's and that is something that when it first started, I it was such a small community, and you can get in my challenge for oh, this is my playground, this is my sandbox, and it's like, no, I've just been playing in it the longest, but it's not mine, it's still the community
Yeah.
sandbox. I joined the app a
And-
week after it dropped, so it very much feels like my home. And you can get
Yeah.
very territorial and possessive, and that is something that I am trying to remember, especially when there are aspects of sexuality and aspects of the way people present their own sexuality that are challenging to my preconceived notions or to the way that I choose to present things. And it doesn't mean that it's less valid. It just means that their kink is not my kink, and that's okay. And I have to kind of remove myself from that. But it's and it's
Yeah.
and it's but it's a challenging, and I think that's the challenge of any kind of social media, full stop, whether it's an audio platform or whether it is text or whatever. It's knowing when the conversations that can happen or the interactions that can happen through the medium are limited, and for there to be understanding or for there to be growth or for you to just know your own limits and back away when you are feeling you know pushed in a way that is uncomfortable. And I'm use uncomfortable in meaning um upsetting, because I think that those are there. It's two different things. When you get to a point where your emotions are elevated that you can't listen, that's the point where you need to remove yourself. But I think that that's different
Yeah.
than being in an echo chamber, and that's different than having your than having your mind challenged by learning about things that you don't know.
Yeah, and you're talking about the self. How much of the self do we have that we can hold on to while we find something that might be a little dissonant or different than what we're used to? And can we hold on to ourselves and continue taking in information? Sometimes that's, the harder part for people. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about the idea, and I said this from the very beginning, that I do all my work right out here in the open, and we are all sexual beings in some direction, however we name it, whatever we call it, whatever our behaviors are that we use, how we think about it, how we feel about it. All of those things come into play, and yet we've never really been given the space to say, here's a place where we could have a conversation, and where might I want to go? And maybe for 2023, someone might take the idea that, wow, maybe I can think about sex differently in a new way. And, is that going to be based on my well-being? Is that going to be based in my pleasure and my desire and where I want to go? And where are the places where I can have those conversations that show me real people working the same process that I'm doing, trying to figure out who I am and how I want to address sexuality for myself. And I think you have done a spectacular job, Mistress K, of being an ambassador in that process for the app. And I'm looking forward to being there on a regular basis now that I actually can get in there, since I did not have iOS the whole first part of the time when the app was up. And so I'm excited that, in fact, tomorrow is my starting date at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be on the Moan app, and I've themed my different days that I'm going to be there. So the first Thursday will be erotic reading, and the second Thursday is erotic writing. The third Thursday will be talking specifically about the Purple Sex Reflection Deck for women. And then the fourth is going to be sexual wellness topics. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow because I'm going to read the very first story that I wrote on my erotic writing journey. And some of you may have heard this story, but my students, when I told them that I was retiring from teaching human sexuality, they totally freaked out. You can't go, keep teaching. And I was like, I have a partner who's 7 years older than me and would very much like to have time to do other things, but you could still do some things on the side. And I'm laughing, and I said, like what? And they said, write, do writing to share the sex education in a new and different way. And in that process, in 2015, I'd taken a class with Rachel Kramer Bussell. And at the end of the class, we all had to find a place, a home for a story that we had written. We had to actually submit it to an actual call for submission to a publication. And the cool part about my experience was that I had decided that I wanted, if I'd done this work in 2015, that I wanted to end the year, December 31st, 2015, with a published piece. And I contacted Marie Rebel, who is with the Wicked Wednesday website. And I'm telling this story because this past 12/31/22, after 10 years of running the site, she decided to end the site. And so it's kind of fitting, bookends in that whole process. So
That's wonderful. I did want to say that I'm doing a talk tonight on the Moan app. That's the mixer for newbies, the monthly newbies night Moan mixer. So pop in, because one of the things that I want to do is kind of run down the calendar and let people know all the varieties of talks that are going to be coming up, and encourage them. So pop in so people can hear your voice and you can give like a brief rundown of what you're going to be doing.
what time is your thing tonight?
9 o'clock Eastern.
9 o'clock. Okay. I'll see if I can make that work. I have to look at the calendar and see what I got going, but that's perfect. That's perfect, Mistress K. I see my friend Rachel has arrived. Hi, Rachel. New mindset, new results. What you think?
Oh, I'm just getting in here, so I haven't seen everything that you guys were sharing, but I saw that you were having a space. So I was like, I'm there, wait. Wait for me.
Well, let me tell you, it's been very different. I'm gonna be curious to see when you have your spaces. Did you do one on Tuesday?
No, I took this week off. It was my birthday and my folks' anniversary, and just, a lot of personal stuff going on, and I'm busy. So I just
Well,
decided to start next week.
it was interesting because Misha and I probably were in here 20 minutes before Mistress K even came in, and Misha noted that the space didn't even show up on her phone that it was existing. So who knows what's
Wow.
going on in the process. But this will be my repurposed content, and it's going to go into all the places that it's going into. So yeah, you know how that is. I
Yeah.
was talking just in general about specific things and tools that we can do for our new mindset and new results for sexuality. And it was kind of around education and journaling and experimentation and talking about the Purple Sex Deck for women and doing creative work like the mandalas and all sorts of different things to help us take a look at improved sexual satisfaction and improve relationships and increase our self-esteem and get our communication going. And that's pretty much what we've been talking about while we're in here, and wondering how things are going to actually be here at Twitter. And for sexuality specifically, perhaps it's going to be more of the Moan app where we're going to be having our discussions. And I'll be starting there tomorrow with my new Purple Sex and Erotic Whim podcast that even Tickle.life is going to be taking those things and making them into a podcast for me. So I'll gather up my first 4 and then we'll have that ready to actually go into podcast modality on wherever people listen to their podcasts, I guess.
iTunes, Spotify, Good Pods, all those places.
Yeah, all those great things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last couple months people have just like completely just dispersed like oil and water, not knowing what's going to happen or where to go. And as far as we can tell, spaces bring in advertising dollars, and also Musk loves to, hold court,
Chat.
right? He loves to be listened to. So I'm thinking for his ego, it's worth keeping spaces, but who knows? I don't know either.
Yeah, and I see that Misha put your book up in the nest there.
Thank you,
Oh,
John.
very cool, very cool. So yeah, we support of all of our people that
I
are
gotta
coming in
be,
here.
yeah, I gotta make sure that all my peeps are represented here.
And I want
That's right.
thank you. And I wanted to thank you for sending me the Purple Sex Deck kit that you sent. I peeked at it, but I want to do an unwrapping video, so it's still sitting on my desk, all wrapped and pretty. You did such a beautiful job, and thank you for that, Dr. J.
Oh, you are welcome, and I hope you've been enjoying the emails. And we
Yes.
need to get into the circle space in our empowering women direction, so you can see what I've created. But tomorrow, you'll get the new invitation for the community, and be ready for class to start next week. So you
Fantastic.
can see all the things that I've put in there. Misha's laughing, I'm sure. It's like, man, she has spent so much time discussing how is this going to be put together and whatever. I'm a regular now in the circle office
But
hours,
that's
and
that's how we figure it out and get it working.
Yeah.
Try fail cycle.
Exactly. Well, I'm thrilled to see all you're doing over there, Donna, and I'm definitely going to be checking it out. And thank you for
well, I'm excited, and hopefully what my plan is, this will be the first course for for the 4 weeks. And then when I'm finishing up the worksheets for the Scenes with Sex book, I should be able to then have another course that I'm going to do the exact same type of thing to get people in that. So I have different communities under one big community. So it's kind of exciting.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, very, very cool. And I'm learning so much just watching you, excuse me, going through this process. So I appreciate all that you share.
There's an interesting thing, for those of you who don't know what Circle app, it is a Circle platform. It is a teaching platform, but it's also community-based programming. You create the community around the course, or you create the course around the community. And it's very different than any of the teaching components that I've done before, but yet there are some real similar things that are kind of cool and interesting in that direction. And I was looking at some of the Circle community people like me who have purchased a space to be there and to do their work. And somebody was talking about, Rachel, this is specifically for you, Chat GPT. And I got to be in Austin having conversations with some interesting tech people all about what Chat GPT has to do with. And it is interesting to use it. It is interesting to see what it comes up with. I got creative in asking it questions to answer things for me. And it is absolutely a hoot. And so it's going to give Google a run for its money in terms of how we do search things and how we put stuff together.
Wow, sorry. That's so interesting. I love seeing that there's other stuff out there, and I appreciate you. Your enthusiasm is catching, and I want to go jump in and figure it out.
Well, believe me, I can see you laughing as you put in a question, and then it just gives you this written, like it writes you a blog post on your question, and you go, wow. And then you can refine it and say, I like how you use this and this. Can you add this to it? And it is just funny to watch it. We did with what this tech guy that's a friend of my son's, this new mindset. See, I even did technology, new mindset with sexuality. There were certain things that it said, we can't talk about that on this on this site, and we were laughing. But I'm not a heavy metal person, but they decided to ask Chat GPT to create a song about washing dishes in the style of Korn. And I had to go look up Korn to see what Korn sounded like. But let me tell you, it was the funniest thing. And we were all laughing so hard about what it did. And then we put in the sexuality questions, and then we were laughing about that. So the new mindset really is mental, it is physical, it is emotional, it is spiritual, and it's always about what's the new thing, how can we talk about it, where are the spaces that we're coming together to do that. And I think 2023 is going to be interesting, and part of my new mindset is going to be sitting over at the Circle platform and seeing how I can, in a very private place, do teaching in the same way that the Moan app does that for social audio. This is going to be very, very, very cool, and I'm excited to see how it's going to all come together. And Mistress K, you want to give a summation for a statement for today before I close everything out?
Stay open, stay happy, and have a great. Let's hope this year is. Let's hope everybody remembered to say Jumanji as the bell struck for this last one, because we need it. We need some goodness. We need some positivity.
There we go. There we go. Mish, what about you? You got anything you want to sum up here? If you're
Grab
able to.
2023 by the short and curlies before it grabs you.
Okay.
So it is, boss.
Rachel, you got any wise words for 2023?
Well, nothing wild or anything, but I usually choose a word every year because I'm not a fan of resolutions. So this year my word is boundaries.
Ooh, well, that's a good one, and one
Good
we
word.
discussed several times in here. Yeah.
I usually do
Yeah.
some like an emotion like compassion, passion, something like that. But I thought, I'm doing this trauma recovery coaching certification, and boundaries is such a huge part of being a survivor of any kind of trauma. And I think a lot of times as women, we are ingrained to say yes to pretty much everything. And then if we say no, we feel like we have to apologize. Men don't do that. They're just like, yeah, no, not going to happen. And then they go on to the next thing. So for me, it's being comfortable in setting boundaries. And then,
And listen to you and your new mindset. I'm
yeah,
loving it.
thank you, ma'am.
Mish, you got your hand up. Misha, your hand is up. Did you need to speak?
Oh, I don't know why it didn't unmute me.
Well,
I like that your word is boundaries. I'd also like to add, if you don't respect your own boundaries, no one else will either.
oh, wise words, wise words, wise words. That's a perfect way to end for today. And let me see what I want to say about the going out process for today, because I do have something interesting to tell you. I've already said that tomorrow I will be on the Moan app for my first event at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And I will pop in with Mistress K tonight at 9 p.m. to be with the newbies, see how things are running and working and how it all goes. Next week, and I want to see how we can publicize this because I have a famous person who's going to be in the space next week. It is UF researcher and sex therapist Dr. Laurie Mintz, who wrote the book Becoming Clitorate. So this is Get the Word Out. She will be here next week at noon Eastern Time. I'm really, really excited about that. I also want to tell you that February the 15th of this year, I will be hosting Rachel Kramer Bussell in her book launch, How to Write Erotica. And I am absolutely thrilled to tell you that I am one of the people that she interviewed, and I'm on page 4. So that's my excitement and my new mindset for 2023. What wild and crazy things can I get into? But I want to thank everyone for being here today. Mish, thank you for being such a lovely co-host, and all the speakers. Y'all are absolutely wonderful, and I'm glad you're part of my life and part of my journey. And everyone listening, I hope you begin 2023 creating a new mindset, using a new mindset, investigating a new mindset, because your sexuality is a core of who you are, and your pleasure and well-being in the sexual wellness world is important too. Everyone have a great day today, and I will see you on the timeline.